Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Joe Longo. This is 30 Days of Inspiration. Thanks for watching. And I'm at Roots Yoga Philly, right?
Roots Philly Yoga.
Roots Philly Yoga with Erik Burling.
Either way works though.
And how about this wall? We just shot in front of this because it's beautiful. And I wanted to chat with Erik. I've known Erik a long time in this yoga world.
Yeah, at least 7 or 8 years, I think.
Probably, when you were on that side of the camera.
Yeah, I used to be on that side of the camera.
And on this side too, with the microphone.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Erik used to be on the news.
Yeah.
And he doesn't miss it because I asked him already. When did you quit? When did you become a quitter, Erik?
When did I quit? That's a great question. So I started doing yoga and meditation while I was a television news anchor in a beautiful small city in upstate New York called Binghamton, New York. And I was always athletic like you as well, and I was running a lot at the time. And for my teenage years, 12, and then all the way through college, I always knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a broadcaster. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. But then I went to Temple University and realized that I wanted to broaden my horizons and be a news broadcaster. But while I was in Binghamton, New York, and I was running a lot at the time, and then I was also in this job as a news anchor, which was everything that I always thought I wanted to do, but I necessarily didn't feel that I was being spiritually fulfilled in a way. So my body was sort of breaking down a little bit because of the running, and for some reason that idea, and that's an important idea for me, is this idea of spiritual fulfillment. Like we should live a life where we sort of feel that we're helping in some way. Our families, our communities, it's a big thing for me to be able to be of service. So I didn't feel that spiritual fulfillment. And my co-anchor at the time said, why don't you try a yoga class? So I went to Binghamton Yoga, which is still around. I took my first class on a Saturday morning. I remember the first pose, the first asana I took, and it was what we call pratibha. So there's a flash of illumination. And that first pose, that first class made sense to me. It clicked. So I took a class on Saturday morning, and I went back on Sunday morning. I took another class, and now it's the year 2018, and you and I are sitting in the yoga studio that I'm the owner of it, but I don't consider myself the owner. I consider myself sort of the guide of Roots Philly Yoga here in the Callowhill neighborhood section of Philadelphia.
It's a beautiful section as well, with a great park right through this wall over there.
Yeah.
So when did you come to Philadelphia?
I came to Philadelphia, so I was pretty much born and bred Philadelphia for the most part, out in the burbs, Temple University, Binghamton, New York. In television news, so you sort of have to jump around a lot. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to play the ladder game because I was actually coming back to Philadelphia, Center City area quite frequently from Binghamton, New York to hang out with friends, and there was something sort of pulling me back here in a way. Like I didn't want to come back to Philadelphia 5-7 years from now. I wanted to be in the city now, at that time in my life. I felt that there was a pull there. I felt like there was a vibration, like something was happening, something was churning in this city. And I also wanted to take a job, a position that allowed me to practice yoga daily, which my old life and TV news did not allow me to do. So moved back to Philadelphia, had to hang out with my parents for maybe 3 or 4 months before I got a job with an organization called Bethesda Project, who does homeless outreach. So I actually managed a homeless shelter for 3 years in the Center City area. But during that time, I had the availability to be able to take yoga classes daily. So I went deeper into yoga and meditation. I became a yoga teacher, and then gradually I became a full-time yoga teacher, and then morphed into sort of where we are right now. I met my wife Lauren, who's also a yoga teacher, and together we sort of created this community, and she sort of aided me to this point. I would not be where I am, we would not have this yoga community that we do if my wife was not also part of it. So it's definitely a team effort. But what I can say for people out there is that my fuel and my motivation to sort of reprioritize and evolve my life has always been yoga and meditation, sort of at the source and at the core of all that stuff.
Wow, it's such a journey.
The pilgrimage, right?
It is a pilgrimage.
The pilgrimage. And
yeah, I was talking about that earlier with Noah. It's like the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, you're familiar?
No.
So Joseph Campbell is great. You should definitely.
Yeah, I know the name.
Look him up. And there's a great, fun documentary for everyone out there called Finding Joe. And they just really. There's also, I think, one of his series is on Netflix now, but the documentary Finding Joe is great. But he pretty much studied philosophy and mythology and all kinds of literature, and pretty much came up with the hero's journey. That every story has the hero's journey. That we're here, and then we feel this pull where we have to go and learn and study, but then we have to come back and give it back to our community.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Seems like what exactly it is that you're doing here. What is it? Where are we again? Callowhill.
Callowhill. Yeah.
And you just moved into this space.
Yeah. So 4th of July will be the 3rd year anniversary of Roots Philly Yoga. In January, we moved on up, but we moved on up into this. It's a beautiful new construction yoga studio. We have 2 floors, 2 yoga studios, and we also offer massage and community acupuncture here under the same roof. Really sort of prioritizing, like all yoga studios, but really trying to prioritize these spaces as sort of healing spaces. And trying to have different healing modalities for different people, because we're all unique, we're all individual. So it's important that, and we're all going to heal in different ways, and we need different things to heal. Some people it's a fiery yoga practice, some people it's a kundalini yoga practice, some people it's acupuncture, some people it's massage. So we sort of offer all that, and it's exciting. It's exciting times in this neighborhood, and I think across Philadelphia, the yoga scene is very exciting times, I'd say.
It is. It's very exciting. But I feel I've been saying that for a very long time. But it does feel like the last couple of years that there's this fun, sweet energy about the Philly yoga community now, where it's not so much about where you practice, but more that you practice. That's the feeling that I'm getting from it. That it is getting back to yoga, the actual union of it.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly right, Joe. And I think you're onto a couple things there, in that not everyone should practice yoga. Everyone should practice yoga.
But everyone should, and meditate.
But yoga is so common now. So it doesn't really matter what kind of yoga you practice. It's that you have a practice. Number one, that checks the box off in a way. Number two is that I think this city is sort of on the cusp of something. Philadelphia, I think more people are being drawn here for various different reasons, whether there's opportunity in the arts, for entrepreneurs, for upstarts. There's a lot of opportunity in this city that there might not necessarily be in New York City or Washington, D.C., and then there's, Philadelphia's in between. So a lot of people are gravitating here. So I feel like we're on the cusp of something. And that affects the yoga community as well. And I think, getting to what you said, that it's really a time for the different yoga communities, what I call the different yoga tribes, different tribes in the city, to band together in a way to answer that question as to what is yoga? Because that's what we're practicing, right? And yoga is literally means to yoke, right?
Yep.
To bind together. Union, oneness. And I've been saying a lot, trying to emphasize that if we are practicing yoga, we are only engaged in things that are uniting, that are bringing together, that are creating one. That's when yoga is happening. If we are doing anything, and this mind loves to differentiate, divide things. That's what the natural mind wants to do. We want to do the opposite of that. We want to do everything that brings harmony, that creates a union between separate parts. And I think that's the challenge, and I think that's the task that you and I need to, work on or lead the way. And in the greater Philadelphia or the greater world yoga community is not to look at another and see which separates or which divides, but to look at what we think is another as ourselves and figure out how do we unite? What is the common link?
There's this great Yogi Bhajan quote that it's very simple. Recognize that the other is you. And it's just that simple. So when someone cuts you off and you're pissed off, they're just like you. They're you, they're me, we're all the same. And the same with this wonderful yoga world.
Yeah.
I don't care what kind of down dog you do or how you do your triangle. You're still practicing. You're still connecting to that same thing, most likely that I'm connecting to. We're just going through it we're just taking a different road to get there. But it doesn't necessarily mean that your yoga is better than my yoga. I used to joke around when I was younger, growing up in a born-again Christian evangelical kind of world. I would joke around and be like, oh, but my God is better than your God. I didn't mean it, but that's the way it seemed. Churches would be bickering, like, no, my God is so much better than your God. And I remember being this little kid being like, it's all the same, right? If you're a Catholic, a Protestant, we're all praying to the same being, the same source.
Yeah.
So same with the yoga. We're all really doing the same thing. It's just how can we strip our ego away so we can actually keep moving things forward and uplifting everyone.
Yeah. No,
that's the task.
Yeah, that's the task. You're exactly right. Is to see. Yeah. And you said it. It's seeing what is different, and seeing that as a part of ourselves, and trying to figure out how can I harmonize with that. That's something which is different, or which we don't necessarily like too. Sometimes we don't like things, presidents and such, but that's a reflection of ourselves.
Right.
It's a reflection of ourselves. If we are engaged in yoga, then there's only one. There's only one thing, and I think it takes practice to live from that place at all point in times, right? That's the end point. That's the goal. That's what we call maybe samadhi or enlightenment, is to get to that place that we're always looking through these eyes, where you are me and I am you. Even if there's a blemish or something,
right?
It's that's why we need to study yoga and ask ourselves what is yoga, and how do we live that? The idea of, I love this idea of, and it's not the trendy stuff. It's not because of sweat and heat. But this idea of why the world needs yoga. Because that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you're doing what you're doing, I fathom too, is because we feel like the world needs yoga. And and you and I were talking about this, that I think the world needs yoga because yoga means union, it means uniting.
Right. And I think a lot of people sometimes just see the word yoga or would hear, why does the world need yoga? And instantly go to, well, why does the world need to do a down dog? And think that, like, the physical aspect of yoga, not realize that there's so much more to yoga than just the physical practice. And that's, I think, why sometimes I get a little annoyed when I hear bickerings within the yoga world about that's not yoga or that's not yoga, this is yoga, when it's really, it's all yoga. It's just, what is your yoga? What does your yoga look like? And how are you going to celebrate it? And then give it back to hopefully uplift others.
Yeah, without a doubt. Trying to see beyond that which it's that same thing that separates and divides. For those analogies that you threw out. But when you study what yoga is, you see that it's something bigger than that. There's also this other idea that I think sort of goes hand in hand, which is an inspiration for where I try to teach from, and that is the practice of karma yoga. So karma yoga is the practice of Mahatma Gandhi. Mm-hmm. Right? And karma yoga is the one who dissolves the self in service to others, meaning that you or I have no identity as an individual. Our identity is built in how we help and how we serve others. And you can see that so clearly with Mahatma Gandhi, that Gandhi would not be the Gandhi that we know if there wasn't all those people in India who were suffering from oppression. He became who he was because he offered everything of himself in service to others. He literally dissolved the individual and became who he was by sort of reaching out and helping, almost to the point of his own death. He was willing to risk his death. And that is such a powerful aspect that I feel ties into separate becoming one, or two becoming one. That's that idea of dissolving the self, who we are and who we understand ourselves to be. We are not whole until we find who we are in service to others.
Oh, beautiful. But it's such a scary process to allow the self to dissolve, because then where will my ego go? Right? And then it's super scary. And that's in it. And I only say that because in the Kundalini tradition, the style of yoga that I teach, I get pushback from people that will come to class, and then I'll get an email like 4 weeks into class that says I can't come anymore because every time I go home after class, I'm crying and I'm breaking down and I'm feeling all these emotions. And I always reply back, I understand where you're coming from, but this is when you need to keep coming. Like push, like this is like when you're lifting weights and you're like, I can't anymore. It's like that same thing, but it's just you're having this mental, emotional struggle that wants to say, no, don't do it anymore. And when you're getting that, no, I don't want to do it anymore, that's when you need to go and keep going, because you're so close. Typically, you're so close to like having some type of breakthrough, awakening, something happening. When you get that emotionally charged, you're like, I can't go back anymore. That's when this is when you have to push through. And it might suck. Like it might suck. You might cry. You might not be in a happy place for a little while. But there is that light that is at the end that you get to, and it's like, oh, I'm so happy that I pushed through and I learned so much from the darkness that brought me into the light.
And I think you were talking about the path earlier. I think that's inevitable in the path. If we are sincere in wanting to attain whatever it is that we're here to attain, that part of the sort of journey is inevitable, sort of the breaking down. And I would even argue that could be the death of ego. Could be the death of something's dying that wants to live. But it's not from truth. It's not the true self.
Right, and that's why it'll fight so hard, and you'll listen to that because it's fighting so hard.
And the other thing, the Buddhist tradition would almost say something to the extent like, if you are suffering, then others are suffering too. So we're never in it alone either. We're never in it alone. Suffering is universal, and that's actually something that can connect us and tie us together. And then then where do we get after that is then that's ever abiding joy and contentment. And ever abiding joy and contentment is joy and happiness found in things that aren't fleeting or things that aren't temporary. The sunset, a bird chirping, the clouds passing in the sky. But we're so almost hooked on sort of temporary fixes and fleeting highs, But we want to find abiding joy and contentment in the things that are always available to us within our own sort of heart. That's the peace. But it's always that process. There's the shaking and there's the earthquakes and
right. Well, it's like how you said it's like a death, but then there is this rebirth, and it's a beautiful rebirth when you can then walk out and love and appreciate the sunset, or love and appreciate the way the leaves are blowing in the wind, and just literally see the beauty and God all around you.
And there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than that. And not to pick on people, people. But then you look around and you see how distracted we are as a modern society. We're always here. We're always on our gadgets and our gadgets. And what is more intoxicating than the sun setting or the sun rising? And these are the things that are going to be around forever. Cell phones are going to be around, I don't know, maybe 15 more years before we get our next thing, so we always have to watch our habits and our patterns and really try to focus on those things that are ever available to us. Nature's always available to us. We are nature. And to find joy and happiness in those things, and not purchases or being a consumer or being hooked in to a world that's, by definition, it's virtual reality. It's not reality. And as yogis, we're to study what is real, right?
And be present.
And just be present.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So I feel like everything that you said has been very inspiring, but if you can throw one more piece of information, something that if someone looking to move forward in the direction of their passions and bliss, what might one little nugget of information be to keep them moving forward?
I would say that, to look at them and say that the world needs them. The world needs them. It's very, very important. And don't ever think that the world does not need you, too. Because the world needs you. And you and me, we all have unique gifts. Your gifts, your talents are different than my gifts and my talents. But they're equally valuable. And there's a very reason why the hand of God has planted us as a seed on this planet. It's merely divine. And it's crucial. The world needs you. And we can't we can't quiet that inner noise and that inner churning. So if something is coming up, a welling up, a feeling, listen to it. Listen to it. And take it as scripture, I guess. Mm-hmm. It is the words, it is the law. But and to do that, and to know that you're unique, and we're not here to replicate things that have done before. We're all here, I think, to create anew, but we all have to figure out what is that something that we're here to create anew. But the world needs you, and the world needs you and your gifts, and it needs it, sincerely, I mean this, it's life or death. It is your own life or death. If there's music within you, if there's a gift in you that needs to come out, and for some reason you're blocking it, or it's something in your life, your lifestyle, your habits are preventing it to come out, it's going to manifest negatively in your body. So we all have to honor that, because the world, it's a precarious time. It really is a precarious time. Mm-hmm. So the world needs your gifts. The world needs your gifts. And we shouldn't, with haste, no delay, and to the point of our own death, like Mahatma Gandhi, we should be willing to sacrifice our own selves for that which we believe to be righteous and to be true.
That's good. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So be you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And we're going to go outside and play in the new park and make some pretty photos. Thank you so much. Before we go, Instagram?
Zen Warrior 39.
Zen Warrior 39. And anything fun happening at the studio in the coming weeks? That
just practice.
Just practice.
Come practice.
Just come practice. Come practice.
There's always stuff going on. I mean, we've
check the website.
We have book club and happy hours. There's like so much stuff going on. It's a community center here, and we do yoga, but there's always stuff going on. But the heart of it all is the practice of yoga. And come as you are. Come as you are. Come as you are.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joe.
I love you, brother.
Yeah.
I will see you all tomorrow.